Okay, yesterday I tried filming this, but my camera, after buying new batteries, ridiculously, they only lasted like 2 seconds and they gave up. I don't know what kind of batteries they were, don't ask. Anyhow, I wrote out a little bit of a script in tackling a very particular issue regarding a defense to the problem of evil, the greater good defense. So, the problem of evil, quickly stated, is that could evil and God coexist, and God defined as omniscient, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent being, all-loving, all-powerful, and all-knowing God. And the loving part, of course, is construed sometimes just to be more precise, like morally perfect, and what everyone means by morally perfect, and all good or all loving. Okay, so that being said, there's been many attempts in the past by many theologians and philosophers of religion and non-religion for all sorts of reasons to bridge defenses why evil and God, these two concepts, could coexist without any internal inconsistency or contradiction. And so usually the common and kind of popular strategy is not necessarily to define evil out of existence so much as to show its compatibility. And in doing so, one such argument, the greater good defense, would have it that if God had a reason for the evil in the world that was ultimately good, this would justify why evil could coexist while this God exists, and God wouldn't be responsible for being not all-loving or not all-powerful to stop something because he would want it to exist for a certain reason. Anyhow, so I'm going to read to you a little script that I kind of already mapped out. This is only due to the fact that it came out a lot neater, especially when I write things out. I'm a little more analytical than when I speak. So, allow me to begin. In solving the problem of evil with the greater good defense, when it comes to moral character building as a response to God's greater good plan, one must discern that God's plan is unknown to mortals, except that whatever it is, it has to be good. However, if we are to suppose for the sake of argument that God's good, mysterious plan is shown through our moral character strengthening, I'd say we run into problems. So here, where I already built the groundwork that in defending a God, defining God as such with the coexistence of evil, one such reason for a greater good defense, because God could have many reasons why evil could exist, but one of which that we can suppose at least is that, let's say, that God can take away somebody, take their life. And when everybody asks why, the reason is, when they say why God is, well, God had a good reason for them, and that good reason would be that the people that were affected around this person, in some way or another, their character was morally strengthened. It was, they wouldn't be where they otherwise are right now, had it not been for the death of, let's say, Tommy or Christina or somebody, because this impact allows them to grow morally. Okay, so I'm going to tackle that supposition. I'm saying that this sort of reasoning runs into problems, and allow me to explain. I have 2 points I put on the table. Allow me to begin with the obvious and then move on to point number 2. The first point is one I deem very obvious. Point 1, if God does not have a reason for evil, pointless evil exists, and thus God either doesn't love us enough to stop this pointless evil, or God does not have the power to stop this pointless evil, or God does not know about this pointless evil to stop it. Okay. But my second point, and this is the important point, if God does have a reason for evil, and his reason cannot be known to any mortal except the fact that it must, whatever his reason is, must be good, and that this one reason, if we were to suppose that it's for the moral strengthening of others when somebody dies, then I would conclude that this God is unfair and thus not morally perfect. Okay, now I think the first point I put on the table is fairly obvious, so I'll just move straight ahead to point 2. Imagine a theater, and this is where I draw an analogy. Imagine a theater with a director designing roles for everyone in his play. The director also assumes the role of the scriptwriter. The play would then go in the direction desired by the director and at his command. If the actor refused to take part in the play, the actor would be punished. If the actor chose to follow the script and participate in the play, the director would reward the actor. However, after acknowledging the consequences of the participation, the director goes on to say that everyone has the choice to do as they wish. So you could literally walk off the set, meaning that would be comparable to somebody saying, okay, I'm just going to end my life, I'm going to suicide. I'm not meant for this whatever script. Another is that I could aim to do what's not in my script, which would be aiming towards the bad rather than the good. And in that sense, you would be not following the script of the director. If you would follow the script of the director, then all is well with the director. Okay, so now suppose that the director, when writing the script, mapped out the death of actor X, let's say Thomas, to strengthen the character and the plot development of his work. In actor X's dying, in Thomas's dying, actors Y and Z are affected and grow positively from the experience. Mind you, the actors did not choose their role. They were picked and given that ultimatum to stay or leave with the according consequences. Okay, since actor X, Thomas, was taken from the play to die for the benefit of others and possibly plot development, Thomas is not free in 2 regards. The first regard, A, he is not free to choose when to enter the play. He is not humans are not free to choose, or at least it's not at all obvious because we have no recollection of it, when to enter into existence. We are just here not by choice. And then its corollary, B, and Thomas is also not free to choose when to exit the play. We are also not free to choose when we will die. Well, technically we are free to choose when we will die. So what I mean to say, actually, then, is that we're free to choose when we are able to exit the play, when we are willing to die. Suicide is a prominent aspect. But when it's argued that God takes away a life for the benefit of X, Y, and Z others, then that taking away, let's say it was me in a bus and all of a sudden there was a time bomb in there or something and it exploded. That was an untimely death because I was not ready for death. I wasn't planning on it. It wasn't my will to die at that point. However, nonetheless, I was taken away, and if the argument is to be supposed that God was the taker of my life in that sense, then, of course, then we have to suppose accordingly. Okay, finishing up here. I think most people will take issue with B more so than A, but I will acknowledge both with both respectively. A, the freedom to choose to awaken to existence is the jurisdiction of gods in this supposition. It is not clear if one had a choice to live, since no one can remember such an experience, if there indeed was such an experience. I suppose an argument might be then said, in regard to this, perhaps we did choose, but we no longer remember, and perhaps we will remember in a time to come. Just as it's equally likely that you may never remember. However, it may be an unpopular argument. B. More problematic is the will to choose when to leave or when to die. One is forced ahead of time by the director, God, to die in benefit of another. we are then forced to be altruistic against our will. This raises a vital scrutiny on our freedom. Either we have the complete free will to choose anything we wish without boundaries except physical constraints, or we are limited by some constraints that are non-physical, death being one of them. The will to live, as it were. Either way, one interprets our freedom, God is being unfair in a certain regard, in telling us when to die and for the well-being of another. It is absolutely essential that one must die. Is it absolutely essential that one must die to build up another's character? Could there not be another way, such as, given his divinity and attributes, perhaps create moral strengthening by having us concentrate on knowledge or virtue or something else, instead of taking away the precious gift of life without consent? If God's reason is indeed to forcefully take us out of existence at his will, to fulfill his forceful altruistic reason, is there yet another mysterious reason we can again suppose that must be good? Okay. Like I said, in exiting, of course, you have the option of suicide, but that's not the point. The point is when you are taken against your will to die. When you're doing suicide, you obviously will to die. You choose to. You choose to kill yourself. But when you otherwise do not choose to die, but yet die, and supposing there is a God, and this God is taking your life for the benefit of another, that's when it becomes applicable. And this is when it becomes, I suppose, blameworthy to this deity for taking the life and forcing my death against my will to benefit so-and-so, which I was never given, I never gave consent to. So anyway, that is just an argument that I sort of came up with. I don't know if it's terribly vitiating in any regard, but if you do find it interesting and wish to add or subtract from it, please feel free.